Aloha, friends. This is Gemini Brett of More Than Astrology, here with the alignment of the day. I'm going to address a brilliant question that a student of my Sacred Astronomy for Astrologers web course submitted last night about Mars retrograde and why this is such a rare happening in the sign of Aquarius. So we'll speak a bit about planetary orbits and how these things are not circles, but rather ellipses, and planetary speed, both in their own reality and also from Earth's view. So let's begin with the latter, because this is a very significant time for Jupiter in his 399-day synodic dance with the sun. In other words, it is 399 days between Sun and Jupiter conjunctions. The last was October 26th, 2017 in the sign of Scorpio. The next, I believe, will be November 9th, 2018 in the sign of Sagittarius. And just between those times today, May 8th, 2018. Let me share a chart with you. We'll go there. All right, so May 8th, 2018, 7:44 a.m., an early one for me. Venus has just risen, and the moon in this moment is culminating due south here behind my head. I feel that Aquarius moon in her third quarter phase, right? So a wonderful way for us to first engage with the idea of a synodic cycle is to connect with one that we can very visibly and easily see, and it happens every 29.53 days on average, and it is called a new moon. Moon today is in the sign of Aquarius, reflecting Taurus light from the third quarter phase of their respective journey, collective journey, maybe I should say, collaborative journey. In my cosmology, sun, spirit, the one, and moon, soul, the reflection of the all. And we're in a cycle that began in the sign of Aries, April 15th, 2018, right here with Uranus, very close to Eris. And since that time of the seed, the new moon waxed away from the sun, finding her first quarter phase in the sign of Leo, now reflecting Taurus light as the sun had ingressed a couple days before. And the full moon in the sign of Scorpio at the moon's northern bending, and very recently in the sign of Aquarius, reflecting Taurus light, the fruit from the full moon flower, if it's willing to be pollinated, then we find this fruit, which carries the seeds for the next cycle, that one being a Taurus new moon at the star Algol. All right, so we can look at, of course, at all these planets here, and, you know, maybe a more global way to do so would be to set up a zero Aries chart here. Let's see if I can do that. We'll go whole sign, and I'll just move through time, and we will watch on a chart the moon wax away from the sun, Taurus new moon. And in the cycle, we begin to reflect Gemini light for the first quarter moon and the full moon in Sagittarius, and the third quarter moon of the coming lunation will reflect Gemini light from the mutable sign of Pisces before soul and spirit meet once again to begin a cycle in the sign of Gemini. Hooray. Okay. So here's where they are in this moment. And what about this. This is a very beautiful and powerful time of the Sun-Jupiter cycle. All right. So Sun cycle, Sun travels around the zodiac in 1 year, right? 365.242 days and change, a tropical year, which we know is actually Earth traveling about the sun, but from our earthly view, we find that it is Sun traveling through the constellations and the signs of the zodiac. Jupiter, 11.86 years to travel around the course of the zodiac. But the Jupiter-Sun cycle, because Jupiter moves so slowly, is 399 days, not too much more than a year. The slower the planet, the more frequent Sun will come around to meet that planet, right? So the Saturn-Sun synodic cycle is 378 days. All right, so let's look back, and I apologize that I can't keep 0 Aries over here at the ascendant and work with what we call a natural house system, 0 Aries, and a whole sign system from there. This brilliant software, Intrepid, does not allow me to do so, but it allows me to do amazing things like this, where I can just very quickly zoom to the last Sun-Jupiter conjunction. This was October 26, 2017, in the sign of Scorpio. Tell you what, I can do a thing and come back some hours before that meeting, and we will set Aries up on the left, fine, and we'll move through time. And so Sun comes to meet Jupiter. If we want to compare this cycle to the cycle of the moon and the sun, and I'm not in any way suggesting energetically or through the correspondences of astrology, Sun and Jupiter are very different things than moon and sun are in their own particular relation. But if we do want to relate it to the movement of the lunation or the lunisolar, the moon-sun cycle of 29.53 days, to bring that analog to the Sun-Jupiter cycle of 399 days, I say Sun-Jupiter because Sun is the faster moving planet from Earth's view, right? And so in a sense, it is Sun that is waxing away from Jupiter, and then at the time of their fullness will wane back towards Jupiter, if you will. So the conjunction of the two was October 26, 2017, in the sign of Scorpio. Jupiter had just recently ingressed Scorpio, spending about a year in every sign, but not exactly. It was October 10th, 2017, that Jupiter ingressed Scorpio, and then the Sun came to find Jupiter there to begin this synodic cycle, synod meaning meeting, of Sun and Jupiter on October 26th. Sun then waxes away and can't turn around, right? And they find with Sun in the sign of Aquarius, the opening square of the cycle. This is also known as the Dexter square, or the sprouting of the seed that was planted in October. Now, with an outer planet, and this is a wonderful thing to know, it is at about the time that Sun applies to the opening trine of the cycle. We could call it, if we want to associate it with the lunation, the waxing trine of the cycle, or a more technical term would be the Dexter trine of the cycle, because Sun is casting the ray to the right. Dexter means right-handed. And here you'll see at the trine, it's just about that time that Jupiter stations retrograde. You see his numbers turned red here in Intrepid software, which indicates the retrograde motion of Jupiter. Now, when a planet, from our point of view, shifts from drive to reverse, they got to put it in park for some time, right? So at the time of the station, whether it's direct to retrograde or retrograde to direct, the planet is still in the zodiac for some time. And then begins to pick up apparent backward speed from our earthly eyes, or to our earthly eyes. Now, the maximum planetary speed as seen from Earth, the maximum retrograde planetary speed comes at the solar opposition. And you can think of this time like a full moon. Slow this down when the sun gets a little closer here. And we'll find that we're basically at today. Try to get it close to the exact time. So when sun is perfectly opposite Jupiter around here. Just let it play by minutes and we'll find the exact moment, which is happening today, May 8th, 2018, around 5:30 p.m. Pacific, a little bit before. So what does this mean? It's very much like a full moon, right? Full moon opposite the sun from Earth rises at sunset, sets at sunrise, right? Apparently the same size as the sun. It is the light of the night, right? You can take those hikes through Sedona mountains without worrying about the rattlesnakes and such because you don't need a flashlight to see. Well, maybe worrying less. And it's better not to worry at all. But there's a very powerful essence of the planetary happening at this time, like a full moon. It's the midway of the cycle in the relationship of the two planets, right? It's come in a sense to full power. My friend Adam Gainsbourg calls this time for an outer planet midnight star. Why? Because like a full moon, now Jupiter rises at sunset, sets at sunrise, and therefore culminates at the midheaven in the middle of the night when the sun is at the bottom of the chart, the Imum Celi, right? And so Jupiter is spending the most time visible to our eyes in the night sky when sun finds opposition to Jupiter. Let's take a look at this from a heliocentric point of view. This is the wonderful software Solar System Scope, which you can play with online for free or download for rather cheap. And I'll just like to do a few things to clean up the screen a bit. And we'll go, and it looks like we're at right now. Wonderful. So where's Jupiter? Well, Jupiter is on the other side of Earth from the sun, right? And so notice what this means. Sun is passing Jupiter by. Let's go back to that October 26th time, and we'll look at the conjunction, which is hard to look at, because if you try to see Jupiter at this time, who, by the way, at the solar conjunction for Jupiter every 399 days, this is the fastest direct movement for Jupiter and the fastest movement for Jupiter through the zodiac from Earth's point of view. And yet, what kind of point of view is that? What we see is the sun. And Cazimi, this is called the solar conjunction with the planet. A little bit easier to image for like a new moon or the retrograde Venus or Mercury conjunction to Sun, which is an interior conjunction where those planets would be here, because it's Cazimi in the heart of it, also referred to in the throne room. And Jupiter is on the other side of the heart of it. Well, we have our heart in the front and in the back, right? And so it's an amazing thing at this time where Jupiter has been under the beams. You know, when Earth is on this side, Earth spinning this way, so sun is setting for folks over here, still see Jupiter's evening star, right? And then as Earth moves in her orbit about sun much more quickly than Jupiter does, we see Jupiter go under the beams. Even though he's still above the horizon at sunset, it's still too bright out in dusk to see his light. Yeah, under the beams, and we speak about another term called combust. Some say when sun is within 17 degrees or 15 degrees of Jupiter, that's under the beams, and combust usually taken to be 8.5 zodiacal degrees between sun and an outer planet like Jupiter or any planet. And then they're not visible at all, right? So at this time of the Cazimi, somehow the sun is bringing us that energy of Jupiter and saying we are beginning a new cycle, right? We're beginning a Scorpio cycle. And again, that was October 26, 2017. You know, I really feel that. It's like we have no visible experience of Jupiter at this time, but like the sun is lensing his energy into Earth. And we feel this agreement that they have made to explore for 399 days, in this case, the energetic called Scorpio. Jupiter bringing that spotlight into, in the case of Scorpio, the hidden things and the power and hopefully the art of the heart. And it's no surprise that the Me Too movement blossomed around this time, really with Jupiter's ingress Scorpio, which is on October 10th. And he was still, depending on where you were on Earth, visible barely as an evening star. Let's say also on October 5th, from Earth's point of view, which is what astrology is, and our charts are geocentric, Earth-centered, Venus and Mars had a conjunction, 19 degrees and change, Virgo. All right, but back to this. So Cazimi here at October 26th in the sign of Scorpio. And Earth continues to move quickly around the sun, at least if we're comparing this to Jupiter speed. So we get to a point where Jupiter comes out from under the beams. And now imagine, if you will, that you're standing here, right? The sun has not yet risen, right? Folks, let's say, let me see if I can set it up. Folks on the moon side of Earth at this time, our sun's midday. Folks to the right of this image, it would be sunrise. And on the left of the Earth in this image, it's sunset because the Earth is spinning this way, west to east. So folks over here seeing Jupiter rise before the sun. You see how Mars is a morning star at this time, where Mercury is an evening star. Does that make sense? And we continue about our merry course, and at about the solar trine, which is when from Earth we could draw a 120-degree angle between one ray going to sun and one ray going to Jupiter. At that solar trine time, Jupiter appears to stop and start heading backwards through the zodiac. And what's happening is that Earth is passing Jupiter by. And this is just like passing a car on the highway. We have that strange trip where they appear to be moving backwards for a time. And the truth is, and please don't try this if you're driving, the further the car is away, like if it's a few lanes over, you're going to see that its retrograde is longer than it is for a car that's just next to you. It also has to do with their relative speeds and yada yada. It's a fun experiment in the passenger seat. And then to bring that back to the truth of the optical illusion of apparent retrograde motion from Earth's point of view. Now it's different for Mercury and for Venus who pass us. And let's actually look at that. It's a wonderful time to do so because here in April, in fact, it was April 1st, Mercury was Cazimi, interior Cazimi. Interior, or in the old language, inferior, which does not mean less than, but rather below, conjunction with Sun. Because Mercury can also have a solar conjunction on the other side of the Sun, the exterior. So can Venus. These two planets are the only two who have these two types of conjunctions, Venus and Mercury, who I'm fond of calling the interior decorators, for their orbits are between us and the Sun. Now, why do we say retrogrades are tricky? I like to look at this thing like the sun is this source of ripples in a pool. And so here we are on Earth just kind of surfing the wave, bro. What happens in your ripple tank if you put another pebble between the source and you? There's an interference pattern. So one thing we can say for sure, and this is true for all planetary retrogrades, whether interior planets like Mercury and Venus who are passing us at the time of their retrograde, or exterior planets like Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, etc., who are retrograde when Earth is passing them, the retrograde time is when the planet is closest to Earth. So this is Mercury in his cycle, as you can see, as close to Earth as possible. So there's something too about the mercurial energies and the earthly energies kind of getting mixed up and combining. You know, we get a really strong dose of Mercury. And in the case of Mercury, it's a synodic cycle of about 116, 118 days, about 4 months. We have Mercury interior conjunctions every 4 months in the middle, the very middle of his 3-week retrograde period. Hermes Trismegistus, right? Retrogrades 3 times a year on average, 3 weeks at a time. In the very middle of the Mercury retrograde is Mercury's fastest retrograde motion. We don't see it because he's with the sun, except for the rare case of a Mercury transit with good technology. But we certainly see an outer planet in the time of fastest retrograde motion, and that happens in the case of Jupiter today, May 8th, where Sun and Jupiter are opposite. So this is Earth passing Jupiter by. Now, does the ripple tank analogy of retrograde-ish break down? No, because also in the ripple tank, if you put something behind the surfer of the ripple, there is also an interference pattern. Now, interference might be a challenging word to use here because I want to state that this is a beautiful thing. But Jupiter retrograde in Scorpio is not only saying, okay, what's happened since October 26th when the cycle began, right? It's saying in your life, are you willing to go back and go within? And in the case of Scorpio, perhaps especially to shine a spotlight into the suppressed. Are you serving the suppressed to control you? Or are you controlling the expressed to serve you? And that type of energy and direction comes very strongly alive at this time when Jupiter is midnight star, rising, think of the Earth spinning this way, rising when the sun sets, setting when the sun rises, culminating in the middle of the night. All right. And the Jupiter retrograde is about 4 months long. So that's a third of a year, right? No. Well, 4 months, yes, is a third of a year, but it's not a third of the cycle. Because the cycle is not 365.242 days, a tropical year. It's 399 days. Why? Because Jupiter is moving, right? So it moves forward and then backwards some. And in a sense, it's kind of 40 degrees forward and 10 degrees backwards. That's a rough estimation. We can play with that in the chart to get more specific. I should be careful because those numbers aren't totally anchored in. And it's also an average for these cycles that change in different signs because these orbits are not circles, they are ellipses. All right, so eventually here, Earth having finished her passing of Jupiter, which happens every 399 days, Jupiter will station direct. Still an evening star, very much so, over here on this side of Earth. Let's see if I can get this. The sun is setting and Jupiter is very visible in the sky. And we continue our trek and eventually get to the point where we will find the next Cazimi, which I believe is November 9th. And that looks not correct at all. But it's tricky to do this in this kind of software. And fortunately, we have genius software as astrologers. I mean, this actually just feels totally wrong to me. So let's see it in the chart, which even while we were playing in heliocentric space was moving through time. So here we are at the opposition. All right. The first quarter is the sprouting of the seed, and sprouting ain't easy. And in the case of the moon, from that time of the waxing half moon, the sprout, we find fullness and the flowering, the reflection. For the moon, sun, neither of those two can ever station retrograde. But for Jupiter, the flowering will always be in the middle of his retrograde period. So even in that, it's a different story with the Sun-Jupiter cycle than it is with the Moon-Sun cycle. Does that make sense? So what are we flowering? Have you been called to kind of go back to some things that began in October of 2017 in regards to Scorpio and perhaps Jupiter, the spiritual essence of Scorpio? Does that mean easy? Yeah, they say Jupiter benefic. You know, no. I mean, Jupiter is very prominent in most death charts, but I think that teaches us that death is also a benefic thing. Just sometimes, as we know in this world, sometimes those things that happen to us, which were our greatest hardships, we learn later as we alchemize and turn that lead into gold, that poison to medicine. That didn't happen to us. He didn't do that to me. He did that for me. That happened for us so we could grow. And Scorpio surely is about growth, you know, and kind of the shamanic shakeup of the hidden hand growth, you know, more tuned to even what we might call like natural selection, adapting to deal with the habitat. In this case, the habitat hopefully is the opening to a higher expression of the art of the heart. Again, not serving the suppressed to control me, but learning to control the expressed to serve me. And before that time, we probably just have to get to the expressed, you know, that full authentic heart, not hiding, as our culture seriously trains us to do. And at first that can just sound like, you know, I'm authentic. And it's like, yes, you are, and a lot to handle, and thank you, and geez. And then we learn to polish that stone and find some control and to fix, Scorpio, that water into this art so we can express the dynamic heart. Not my baby's heart, my family's heart, Cancer, right? The science of the water, to water things and help them grow, nurture them. Not the one heart, which is the truth of the thing. Water is undivided. Pisces, the spirit of the waterways. The art of the heart. My heart, my feelings, my passions, my desires, my excitements, and learning to fix that, right? So it's not selfish to have selfness. And art is the bridge between science and spirit. To move from opening heart in a safe place I can trust, and hopefully this is one of the roles of family and home, so that I can have a dynamic experience. But oftentimes, that wasn't the case in youth. And oftentimes the heart needs to be broken open. The broken heart is a silly term in our language, is it not? Yeah. And this, so we can find that spirit of the water. How can we truly be empathic if we have avoided our own experience of our own heart? These are the teachings of the Scorpio mysteries, and they're fully alive today. And this Scorpio Jupiter, remember, is reflecting Taurus light. Yeah. The fruit, the flower that wants to be tasted and smelled and pollinated, which is so necessary for the tree ring. And now I'm mixing some metaphors because I will call this the flower of this cycle, which was seeded in Scorpio. And we continue along our course. And we'll find that it is at the time of Sun applying to the waning trine of the cycle, where Jupiter stations direct. And this happens in July. Let's see if we can catch the date here when Jupiter's numbers turn black. All right, sometime around July 10th, 14th degree Scorpio. And then now moving from park, picking up speed, Sun comes to apply to what I love to call the fruit of the cycle, what we've earned through the seeding, sprouting, flowering. And Rudyard called this, which is known traditionally as the sinister square, because the sun is looking to the left as the planets in their diurnal motion move this way, and sinister means left-handed. Rudyard called this the conflict in spirit, where he called the opening square, or what I like to say is the sprout, the conflict in action. Why conflict in spirit? Well, we've cultivated this fruit. Are we going to run around showing everyone what we did? I went into my heart, I learned to express, I'm so cool. Or are we going to eat that fruit of wisdom and integrate those lessons so this will be part of our way and understand we have core left for compost and seeds to plant in the soil of the next cycle, which again, in the case of Sun and Jupiter, is 399 days, and their next Cazimi will be in the sign of Sagittarius, long known as one of Jupiter's homes. And let's see if we can catch that date. Oh, yeah, it is November 27th, right. So why I was confused when I was looking at the solar system scope situation is I was looking, I believe, November 9th for Jupiter's ingress Sagittarius, but what I was speaking about was the Sun-Jupiter Cazimi, the next seed of their next synodic cycle. So I stand corrected, and I appreciate you being here learning as I learn. Wonderful. All right, so now I can't fix 0 Aries to the cusp here as we journey around, but I will just show so we can look at some of these dates. The seed of this cycle, Sun conjoined Jupiter, which is the 4th degree of Scorpio. And why don't we look at charts, and if you want to engage with these, you could take screenshots and go back later. Here's the seed. Interestingly, it was Moon conjoined Pluto at the same time. I'm going to try not to analyze these charts because I got other thing I want to share with you. The Sun square Jupiter, the sprout, the opening square, with Sun in the sign of Aquarius, squaring Jupiter in Scorpio. So here's now Scorpio Jupiter reflecting Aquarius light, right? This was February 10th, 2018. Let's look at Jupiter station retrograde. This was March 8th, 2018. And Jupiter here in the sign of Scorpio at 23 degrees, now reflecting Pisces light. The opposition, Sun opposite Scorpio or Jupiter today, May 8th, 2018, 2 months later, right? So there you go. And Jupiter station direct here at 13 degrees. So notice Jupiter traveled retrograde 10 degrees in these 4 months time between March 8th, 2018, station retrograde, and July 10th, 2018, station direct. Scorpio Jupiter now reflecting the trine light of the Cancer Sun. And look at where Mars is at that time. And look maybe especially at where Mars is at this time. Oh, wait, what's happening? Of a total lunar eclipse, a blood moon. So I want to speak about that a little bit. But back to the Jupiter situation. So Jupiter stations direct July 10th with Sun applying and actually separating from the closing trine of the cycle, or what's traditionally known as the sinister, the left-handed, because Sun has to look back to the left side at Jupiter, as together in the diurnal motion, they're cruising. Let's do it like this. They're cruising this way. So see how the Sun has to cast their ray back to Jupiter in their daily motion. And that's known as left-handed. All right. So Sun square Jupiter for the fruit of the cycle. August 6th, 2018. Jupiter now reflecting Leo light. And we have some interesting things happening, like Venus just having ingressed Libra, Mercury retrograde in the sign of Leo, Gemini moon. All right, and actually on the quincunx to Jupiter, we can play all sorts of games like that. But let's go to the next seed. Sun conjoined Jupiter, which I think we saw was November 25th, here in the 4th degree of Sagittarius, and Mercury retrograde. Once again, very interesting. So there's something about the Mercury cycles and the Jupiter cycles that are syncing up in this time now. Square Mars, so you know that will be the seed for the next cycle. It's a beautiful thing to look at the Cazimi chart and we'll go back to this last one since we're in this Scorpio cycle now, as a statement of the energetic for the next 399 days, the Sun-Jupiter cycle. And this is what this chart looked like. In Seattle, Sagittarius was rising, right? Where I live, that's where this chart is cast. That's not true anywhere else in the world. But these geometries, the planets by sign, that is true. And I'll bring in some asteroids and Eris, so you can have that. You could take a screenshot and play with that chart later if you want, and see how the planets at the time maybe are aligning to your own natal planets, etc., especially what was going on here. My birthday is October 24th. My sun is 56 minutes Scorpio, the first degree of Scorpio. So this one was pretty aligned for me. Venus at my Mercury and yada, yada, yada. This isn't about me. How was it aligned for you? In which house was this for you? Where does Scorpio live on your chart? You know, these are seeds for you to experience and sprout and flower and fruit for the seeds of the next cycle during these 399 days between October 26, 2017 and November 25th, 2018. The Jupiter Scorpio synodic cycle in regards to the Sun Jupiter journey. Okay. And so here we are today in this moment, and we are very close. It's 8:20 a.m. now where I sit, and the sun is what, 25 minutes, less than half a degree from the exact opposition to Jupiter. You know, there was a thing I said earlier that I kind of want to look at. I'm going to go back to 2017 and just look at Jupiter station direct. I'm just going to look at Jupiter and the sun once again. 13 degrees Libra, 1313 Libra on June 9th, 2017, Jupiter retrograde at 2313 Scorpio. So yeah, exactly 40 degrees from 1313 Libra to 2313 Scorpio, and then direct at 1321 Scorpio. So I was correct when I said before, 40 degrees forward, 10 degrees back. 4 steps forward, 1 step back, right? That's the Jupiter situation. And we could play with these degrees moving through many cycles, and you'll see that there's some difference, okay? And it's a wonderful adventure. Anyway, let's look at this moment now. Cancer on the rise, this Aquarius moon in the 9th, who says astrologize where I am right now. And I want to show you, and this is a wonderful thing I can do also in the Intrepid platform. It has built in, it's an add-on, but Sky Engine, which allows me to look at some of the data of these synodic cycles. So I'll say, oh, Jupiter, heroic journey, which is Gary Caton's view. But mostly, besides, I'm not really looking for the correspondences right now, but more the astronomy side of our craft of astrology, because I want to show you this thing about Jupiter's speed. All right, so here, October 24th, that was Jupiter applying, or Sun applying to Jupiter. And their conjunction, once again, October 26th, you can see here on the second line. I don't think I can make this bigger for you. But on the right of the second line, you'll see speed is 13 minutes, zodiacal minutes a day, and increasing. That's what that plus is. And then that you might see also is the absolute fastest. That plus really shouldn't be there. That's the time where it peaks. And you can just see the very next entry here, 3 days later, October 29th. On the right, Jupiter is still 13 minutes a day, but now decreasing. Down to 12,940. What is that 0 time? Jupiter moving 0 degrees or 0 minutes through the zodiac per day. That's the station retrograde, right? That's park, right? He's been cruising in forward, and the fastest forward motion is at the Sun-Jupiter Cazimi, then slowing down to station and at the station parked, and then picking up speed retrograde. And so you can see here, on the right, hopefully you can see my mouse, 0 degrees, it's -7 minutes, okay? And per day, sorry, I zoomed over to the right a little bit, but -7 minutes per day and increasing, -7 minutes per day and decreasing. In other words, the maximum retrograde speed, and you will see that is today, May 8th. And we can see this. Now, 7 minutes per day is a very difficult thing to notice in the zodiac, certainly noticing those 10 degrees of retrograde travel for Jupiter between, in this case, March 8th and July 10th. But to see 7 minutes a day is a tricky thing indeed, right? So let's honor that. Let's honor also that it is July 10th where Jupiter is once again parked. So we don't see too much data between these times, but I'll say from the parked station retrograde, Jupiter now accelerating in reverse, max reverse at the solar opposition today, May 8th, and then decelerating in reverse as slowing down to park station direct, and that's July 10th, and then moving now, accelerating, and you can see 0 degrees per day, or 0 minutes, 4 minutes per day, 9 minutes per day, 13 minutes a day, which at least in this zone of the zodiac is Jupiter's maximum speed. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense to you. All right. So there's a thing about outer planet synodic cycles. And there are some general rules that we can apply to all of the outer planets: Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, the visible three, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Haumea, Maki, Eris, all those beings. We could say this is true also for Ceres and Vesta and, all of everything outside of Earth's orbit, exterior, okay? That their fastest motion, though we cannot see it, is direct, and when they are with the sun, the cazimi. We can't see it because here's the sun, if I'm the planet, here's the sun, right? You don't see me. You don't see me moving as fast as I do in direct motion, but it's happening. The fastest direct motion from Earth's point of view, right? That's very important because we're going to get back to this. So this is a geocentric or Earth-centered witness of the planetary happening. All right, so fastest direct speed at the solar cazimi. Then, and this is generally true, when sun applies to the opening trine, the outer planet stations retrograde. Now for Jupiter, it's very close. Mars, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, it varies. But the general rule is that around the trines from the sun to the outer planet when they station retrograde at the opening trine and station direct at the closing trine of this cycle. Opening trine, the dexter trine, the closing trine, the sinister trine. Okay, opening trine before the midpoint of the cycle, the opposition, right? Sun opposite Jupiter every 399 days. And the closing trine after that point, right? If we want to compare this to the lunation, opening is the waxing of the moon, closing is the waning of the moon. Opening is the dexter and closing is the sinister, opening the right-handed, closing the left-handed. All right. Now, where do we go? Okay, so a few more of the general rules. The fastest retrograde motion for the outer planet will be when sun is opposite that planet, right? So again, this is Adam Gainsbourg's term, midnight star, when the outer planet is midnight star, rising at sunset, setting at sunrise, and therefore culminating in the middle of the night, dominating the night, and what? Closest to Earth. Remember, we're looking at that heliocentric view. This is Earth passing Jupiter by. So today, right now, Jupiter in this particular cycle is as close to Earth as possible. That means brightest. All right, so get out and receive that bright light of Jupiter tonight and the next few, and you will see gleaming. And we're in this amazing period right now where Venus is an evening star in the sign of Gemini. Let's look at the chart for this one. In Jupiter, they're about quincunx, 150 degrees. So we're in this situation where the sun sets, and we're having, this is such an amazing thing I connected to last night. And it looks like right now, it's almost the exact quincunx between Venus and Jupiter, while Jupiter is opposite Sun, or Sun is opposite Jupiter. Look at tomorrow. You know, between today and tonight and tomorrow night from Seattle anyway, Venus will perfect the 150 degree aspect, the quincunx, which you don't see drawn in here because I'm only showing Ptolemaic aspects. This is back in the day that wasn't an aspect at all. It was an inconjunct or an aversion, but we don't need to go there right now. Where we do go is out to the sunset, and you will see Venus beaming in the west. And there is a time where Jupiter will be at an equal height above the horizon altitude, beaming in the east. It's a beautiful, amazing thing. Go see that and feel the difference of Venus and Jupiter, who are both evening stars, but in very different parts of their cycles. And the Venus cycle works very differently than a Jupiter cycle because she's an interior decorator. She's between Earth and Sun. Okay. But go see that tonight. And now let's talk about Mars, because I want to share this question, this brilliant question. Here's this moment now. Mars in Capricorn, very close to the degree of his exaltation, reflecting Taurus light. Notice what? That Sun is applying to the opening trine with Mars. Can you see that now? The Sun-Mars synodic cycle is the longest cycle. Why? Mars moves faster than Jupiter. That's why. In fact, from Earth, Mars is the planet that most closely matches the speed of the Sun. Or from the Sun, Mars is the planet that most closely matches this orbital speed of Earth. So Earth passes Mars by less frequently than Earth passes Jupiter, less frequently than Saturn, less frequently than Uranus, you see. So the slower the outer planet, the shorter the synodic cycle, because we're talking about the Sun catching up to that planet, really. Or really, we're talking about the Earth passing that planet by. No, you know. So we'll find that Sun conjoined Mars in July, just before the total solar eclipse on August 21st. This was 5th degree Leo, July 26, 2017. And since that seed, a sprouting when Sun applied to the opening square of the cycle, Sun moving faster, right? Capricorn, Mars reflecting Aries light, an interesting story when it comes to Mars. And there were some very interesting things happening at the time, and we'll not go there right now. But then today, Sun applying, as you can see, to the trine, the opening trine, the Dexter trine with Mars. And that happens May 23rd, with Sun now in the sign of Gemini. So in Aquarius Mars, right? So between this time and then, Mars ingresses Aquarius, and that date is May 15th. In fact, the same day that Uranus ingresses Taurus. We're going to look at that in a second as well. Now, maybe we're going to look at that right now. We'll go over here to Astro Gold. Taurinus ingress. So, you know, the talk of the town, friends. Uranus, who spends about 7 years per sign, heading into Taurus to become Taurinus, right? In the marriage of heaven, Oranos, and earth sign Taurus. I recently gave a webinar presentation to EA Zoom meetings. It's up on YouTube. I will post a link to that in the description here when I'm finished, if you want to go check that out. I was looking at what I was calling the heretics journey, And also just some amazing things I found about the Uranus cycles, the synodic cycles, and longer breaths of that cycles that actually bring Uranus in relationship to the precession of the equinoxes. I had a kind of sleepless week studying with Uranus, which is a freaky thing to do always. Anyway, so Uranus ingresses Taurus May 15th, 2018, 8:18 a.m. Pacific time. And here's the chart. And in Astro Gold software, I am able to make a 0 Aries or a natural house chart wheel, which is nice because it makes it more global, right? And there's the chart, and it's an amazing thing. But let me direct your attention to Mars. 29 degrees, 46 minutes Capricorn. In other words, just about to head over to Aquarius. And here is the Mars ingress chart. So Uranus ingresses Taurus 8:18 a.m. Pacific, and about, what, 14 hours later or less, 9:56 p.m. Pacific, Mars ingresses Aquarius. And therefore will almost in that moment, very soon after, perfect, or his first thing that he does in Aquarius, perfect a square to Taurus Uranus. Well, in modern times, Uranus is very much associated with Aquarius, right? In old times, Saturn. Well, look at the Saturn-Uranus relationship on this chart. Look at how Mercury is participating with that. And we could go on and on and on in wheels within wheels. But it's a pretty amazing happening that Mars, in the moment of ingressing Aquarius or just thereafter, will quickly make a Ptolemaic aspect, a square, and to Uranus, you know, the so-called modern ruler of the sign. Fascinating. And then after that, Mars is going to come and sextile Chiron and Aries and more things, wheels within wheels within wheels. I'll show you both of these charts. There's the Mars ingress on the inside and the Taurus ingress on the outside. And it's basically the same chart. Right? It's 14 hours different. But notice on the outside here, maybe I'll put it on the inside. Here's Uranus ingress on the inside. I put it inside because it happens first. And then the Mars ingress on the outside. Notice how as Uranus ingresses Taurus, Moon, and look at this as the time of the Taurus new moon. Moon is in the sign of Taurus, where she's said to be exalted. In fact, Mercury here is at the degree, perhaps, of Moon's exaltation. It's a very interesting thing. And less than 14 hours later, when Mars ingresses Aquarius, Moon in the air sign, like Aquarius, of Gemini. Fascinating. And cohabitating with Venus, the ruler of Taurus, and wheels within wheels in play. All right. Well, Mars is eventually here going to square Jupiter from Aquarius to Scorpio, right? Or is that so? So let's play over here. We can see Mars ingress Aquarius on May 15th, the same day Uranus ingresses Taurus. Here's Jupiter in Scorpio. So we're looking at a Sun-Jupiter cycle, a Sun-Mars cycle. Well, what about the Mars-Jupiter cycle? Which began in the sign of Scorpio, traditionally ruled by Mars, on January 6, 2018. And I could play this game. Actually, let's do that. It wasn't part of the plan today, but it's better not to plan sometimes, you know? Let's make this into a 0 Aries chart, and we will move through time, and we will watch Mars wax away from Jupiter. And it happens slowly. Again, Mars is the fastest moving exterior planet, right? Closest to the sun of those outside of Earth, but still rather slow, a couple years around the course. There's the opening square, but it doesn't perfect. Did you see that? Let me stop time. It's going to jump around here. But just to say that Mars will ingress the sign of Aquarius on May 15th. But before Mars can perfect the square, which is alive by whole sign, right? Fixed sign Aquarius and fixed sign Scorpio, fix yourself to fix the world. Before Mars can apply to that, perfect that square with Jupiter, Mars will retrograde. See that Mars is in the 10th degree of Aquarius, Jupiter in the 14th degree of Scorpio. So before that square can perfect, Mars retrogrades. And in fact, Mars will leave the sign and return on August 12th to the sign of Capricorn. And so the whole sign, Aquarius, Mars, Scorpio, Jupiter, square, does not testify, right? Testimony, a traditional term. So I don't want to go too deep into that right now, but I'll say that. Notice also that it's the Dexter square, right? Mars is the faster moving planet. Mars is the one that does the applications because Jupiter moves slower. So Mars is like the moon and Jupiter is like the sun if we want to compare it to a lunation. And this is Dexter. They move this way and Mars is looking ahead or to the right side towards Jupiter. All right, so Mars will station direct on August 27th. Let's play that game. We'll collect dates simultaneously here. Mars ingress Aquarius, May 15th. Mars station retrograde, June 26th, 10th degree Aquarius. Mars returning to the sign of Capricorn on August 12th, and Mars stationing direct August 27th. So retrograde June 26th, 10th degree Aquarius, and stationing direct August 27th. About 2 months is the Mars retrograde period in the sign of Capricorn, the degree of his exaltation, traditionally speaking. And he moved what? From about 14 to 29. So 15 degrees. Right, we saw Jupiter's retrograde about 10 degrees in 4 months. For Mars, about 15 degrees in 2 months. Now, Mars will then return to the sign of Aquarius on September 10th, 2018, applying now once again to a whole sign square with Scorpio Jupiter. And this one perfects November 19th, 2018, but where? With Mars in Pisces squaring Jupiter in Sag. So an Aquarius, Mars, Scorpio, Jupiter square does not perfect, does not testify. Mars stations retrograde in Aquarius before perfecting the square to Jupiter the first time, leaving the sign going back to Capricorn. And once he ingresses Aquarius to stay for some time, Jupiter leaves Scorpio before Mars can catch up to perfect the Aquarius, Scorpio, Aquarius, Mars, Scorpio, Jupiter square. And so that one doesn't testify either because Jupiter breaks it up when he ingresses Sagittarius, which happens in a theater called U, I believe on November 9th, November 8th Pacific time. Looks like November 8th around the world because it's 4:40 a.m. here. And then we saw this earlier, but the next Sun, Jupiter, Cazimi on November 25th, 399 days from the previous one. Well, what about Sun, Mars? We're in a Sun-Mars cycle that began in Leo, July 26, 2017, and the next one on September 2nd, 2019, about 2 years and change, right? 24 to 26 months is the Sun-Mars cycle here in the 10th degree of Virgo. And very close to the next Mars-Jupiter square, we saw the Dexter square, Mars and Pisces squaring Sagittarius, Jupiter. This one certainly will perfect because when Mars is with the Sun, Mars is moving most quickly in direct motion. All right. And so the Mars-Jupiter square, in this being the sinister square because left-handed Mars has to look back towards Jupiter. It looks like that was what, on September 12th, 2019, and now we're too far into the future. But let me just say this, between Mars is, take Jupiter away for now, retrograde on July 26th and station direct on August 27th, there is what? The Sun-Mars opposition. The fastest retrograde motion for Mars. Mars is midnight star. Mars rising when the sun sets, setting when the sun rises, and therefore culminating in the middle of the night. And this is the brightest, closest, reddest Mars since 2003, which was like one of the greatest, closest, brightest, reddest Mars in like our lifetimes for sure, because it was like the first, I think, like the most bright and close and red and such for like 2,000 years. Don't quote me on that number, please. But look at what's going down at this time. Mars is square the nodes. Sorry, Mars is with the south lunar node. There's a square still happening with Uranus, and already had perfected. And Uranus will station retrograde in August, and I don't need to play that game right now. But I do want to play this one. The solar opposition for Mars. July 26th, 1 year after their conjunction in the sign of Leo. Sun now, of course, 1 year returning to Leo. And basically this degree, let's actually do that. It was, what did we see? July 26, 2017, when the seed was planted in the 5th degree of Leo. And then here we go, in the 5th degree of Leo, July 26, 2018, is the Sun-Mars opposition. It took exactly 1 year for the opening half of the cycle. And Mars is with the lunar node, the south lunar node. And Sun's with the north lunar node. What does that mean? That means eclipse season. And this is very close to a full moon, isn't it? I mean, it's interesting that in the moment of Sun opposite Mars perfection, moons at the degree of Mars's exaltation. I'm seeing a good amount of that. And I can just push this eclipse button and bam, right? So the opposition is July 26th Pacific time, 10:13 p.m. And then the total lunar eclipse, July 27th, 2018, 1:20 p.m. Very shortly thereafter, moon ingresses Aquarius, and there we go. A total lunar eclipse, a blood moon with Uranus on the square. Here's the chart for that. I'll be speaking about this a good amount. I mean, look at Venus in actually the degree where Venus and Mars last conjoined on October 5th, 2017. In a partile perfect trine and applying with Pluto and on and on and on, and wheels within wheels within wheels. I'll give you some asteroids in case you want to take an image of this total lunar eclipse, this blood moon chart. My apologies once again for having it on a Seattle wheel rather than the global Zero Aries wheel that we like to use, but I can't do that in this particular software. Look at where Chiron is in this relation, Uranus and wheels within wheels. All right. But I will say there's another amazing thing about this blood moon opposition, that's moon opposite sun at the nodes, during the Mars opposition, Mars opposite sun, which happens to be at the lunar nodes and square Uranus and sextile Chiron, yada, 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 is that this year we have a solar eclipse, a very partial solar eclipse, a total lunar eclipse, followed by a very partial solar eclipse. Solar, lunar, solar. It's pretty rare. It's an amazing thing when it comes to eclipse cycles and whatnot. Notice that the third eclipse, which is the second solar eclipse on August 11th, also shows us that Mars is retrograde here in the first degree of Aquarius, and therefore about to return to Capricorn for some unfinished business. Now, something also that is amazingly rare about this total lunar eclipse with Mars is just this alone. Mars opposite Sun in the sign of Aquarius, or just the truth that Mars is retrograde in Aquarius at all. Why? And so I'll share with you this question I received from Alice, a student of my shamanic astrology, or my sacred astronomy for astrologers course. I have a question I wanted to ask the Astrolonaut, spelled interestingly, but I am going to be traveling very busy, and I think my timing will be off to catch the next one. So when she says the next one, sometimes you may have noticed I do an Ask the Astrolonaut feature where I go live and just answer people's questions in the comments. She writes, Mars retrograding in Aquarius feels very significant, and I think it has not happened since 1971. Basically, therefore, everyone who is 46 and younger has never experienced Mars retrograde in Aquarius. It also seems like Aquarius is the rare place for Mars to retrograde. Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries have only gotten a retrograde 5 times since 1800, while Leo, Virgo, and Libra have gotten 12 to 13-ish. So I guess my question, long-winded as it would be, what makes this part of the sky a rare place for Mars to revisit? Is it about the elliptical path of Mars? Let me first say, this is how a teacher, and it's Teacher Appreciation Day, by the way, friends. So I interrupt my stream to pour some more tea and to say that if you appreciate these teachings, please like this video and share it around. And if you're in a space where you would like to give something back for what you're receiving here, in another way, you will find a donate button at my website, which is morethanastrology.com. You'll also find a services link where you can book a private consult for us to get into the starry stories of your own soul song, or a mentorship. I love teaching so much. And I love students who are teachers. And I love students who ask questions like this. Not just, why is it? Why is it? Is it because of this, right? Which indicates to the teacher, I'm not just looking for an answer. I have contemplated this. And Alice, you are right. It is because Mars dances about the sun, not in a circle, but rather in an ellipse. So we were looking at planetary speed from the Earth's point of view. The outer planets are most fast, actually, when we can't see them, when they're under the beams of the sun, combust and cazimi, conjunct the sun, so behind the sun from our point of view. No vision of that planet for you, maybe spiritually. And then fastest in their retrograde motion at the time of midnight star, the sun opposition to the outer planet. But what about the planet speed itself? What about the Earth speed? Earth doesn't orbit in a circle. Earth is fastest in its elliptical orbit when it is closest to sun. We are closest to the sun in early January because what is known as Earth's perihelion, and that means closest to the sun, is in the sign of Capricorn. And Earth is furthest from the sun, the aphelion, in the sign of Cancer, July, and therefore slowest. Well, what does that mean in our witness? That means the sun, from Earth's point of view, moves fastest in Capricorn and slowest in Cancer. We say that sun moves on average 1 degree per day because 365.242 days and change per tropical year and 360 degrees of the zodiacal circle. But it's not as simple as divide 360 by 365.242 and change. Because it's not a circle, it's an ellipse. And the sun moves most quickly when in the early degrees of Capricorn, which is the place where in the time of the year, Earth is closest to sun, Earth is moving most quickly in our orbit, and therefore, from our view, sun is moving most quickly through the zodiac. Sun is moving most slowly when we are furthest from the sun in July, and that's when sun is in the sign of Cancer. Now, all planets are in elliptical orbits, Mars in a very extreme, crazy elliptical orbit. And so all planets have their perihelion, closest to the sun, and their aphelion, furthest from the sun. When planets are closest to the sun, perihelion, they are moving most quickly. And furthest from the sun, aphelion, they are moving most slowly. Again, not from Earth's point of view. From Earth's point of view, the planetary speed has to do with their aspect to the sun. It's about the sun-planet synodic cycle. From Earth's point of view, them having their meetings and sun separating and doing that whole trip that we've been looking at, okay? For the planet itself, it's simply how close is it to the sun in its own particular dance. Now, where would the most frequent retrogrades be? Understand that Mars retrograde is Earth passing Mars by. Do you think it's more frequent for Earth to pass Mars in a sign when Mars is moving quickly or slowly? Two cars going around a racetrack. Let's say one is going 1.5 times as fast as the other. And in another example, one is going 1.25 times as fast as the other. The one that's moving 1.5 times as fast as the other is going to pass the other more frequently, right? I guess I could have just used whole numbers. Say you're going 3 times faster than the other car, you're going to lap it 3 times more frequently. Or let's say you're going 4 times faster than another car, you're going to lap it twice as frequently as you would were you going twice as fast as the car, right? Well, if it's your speed is consistent and we're talking about the car that you're passing changing in speed, it's much more likely, or you will pass the car more frequently when it is slower. Okay, so Alice gives us some great data in her share. She tells us that, where did I put that thing? Is it here? Yes, she tells us, and thank you, Alice, for asking a question that you have contemplated and also gathered data for, right? Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries have only gotten a Mars retrograde 5 times since 1800, while Leo, Virgo, and Libra have gotten 12 to 13. Okay, so more common retrogrades when Mars is Leo, Virgo, and Libra. Less common retrogrades when Mars is on the, look, exact opposite side of the zodiac, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries. So if I'm suggesting to you that the retrogrades are going to be more frequent when Mars is slowest in his course because Earth has a greater opportunity to pass Mars by, slowest means the planet at apogee, furthest from the sun. Do you think we might find Mars's apogee somewhere here where he is most frequently retrograde, Leo, Virgo, Libra, in his perigee, somewhere in this Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries zone of the zodiac, where the retrogrades are least frequent? I hope you do. And let's prove that this is a thing. And we go to this amazing resource online, which is called true-node.com/EPH3. Okay. I'm actually going to go to EPH1, their first incarnation of this thing. And by the way, Teachers Appreciation Day, I will be going over here to donate because it's an amazing thing that I use often. What a gift, because I can look at where planetary nodes are, both from the heliocentric and the geocentric point of view, and I can look for things like apogees and perigees from a geocentric or from a heliocentric point of view. Now, if I look at the Mars apogees and perigees from Earth, what does that mean? Geocentric. And we'll just go from January 1st and look every month for the year of 2018. And we'll print out 12 of these things of Mars's perihelion and aphelion. Magic box, this thing's so great. And I can see that in January, Mars's perihelion closest to the sun is Aquarius. and aphelion in Libra. Well, look at these signs over here. Aphelion, slowest Mars, more likely to pass Mars when he's slow. Libra, Virgo, Leo, Cancer. I mean, the zone of the zodiac that Alice showed us, Mars is most frequently retrograde within. And the places where Mars is most infrequently retrograde is perihelion, because he's moving fastest, and therefore it's much more difficult or less frequent for Earth to pass him by. Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Pisces, Capricorn, Aquarius. Now it's changing so quickly. And if you've studied planetary and geocentric nodes, planetary nodes from both heliocentric and geocentric point of views, you will know that from the sun's point of view, the nodes where the course of that planet crosses the course of Earth, for example, they move very slowly. But from Earth's point of view, they move through the zodiac. Why is that? It's because Earth moves. And I don't want to get into that trip so much today. But let's say that's a node of the planet called Brett. And here's Brett's movement. Okay. Here's you, the planet Earth's movement. Do you see how the node is moving through the zodiac? Maybe. That's as much as I want to do. But it's the same reason why geocentric nodes will move while heliocentric nodes won't move so much. And if you just look at this, like January 2018 to December 2018, from Scorpio to Pisces, oh, sorry, those are the longitudes. That's where Mars is at the time. In fact, you know what? I'm actually going to take that out, because while it's fascinating and important, it's not part of this particular study or share. So perihelion, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Capricorn. Well, I mean, I'm going to go back to like 1018, 1,000 years ago, and we'll find that the general wrap is the same. You see that? Okay. And let's go back to the year 1 AD. And we'll see the general wrap is about the same, don't we? Different a bit. That was a long time ago. And what I want to do here is look instead of at, well, let me do this. Let's go back to 2018, and we'll have a look from, now instead of a geocentric, we'll look at the heliocentric view each month. Pisces, 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 Virgo, 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 right? Okay, so Mars fastest at our time for Mars, because closest to the sun, perihelion in the sign, early degrees of Pisces, and slowest because furthest from the sun, aphelion in Virgo. Got it? Now, instead of doing this every month, because look, it really doesn't change much, does it? Let's do this every, 100 years from 1 AD, and we'll print out 20 of these. I love this resource here. Oops, see that. Okay. And now you can see that Mars is aphelia furthest from the sun and slowest, and perihelions closest to the sun and fastest. Those points move. This is from the sun's point of view. This is more of a true expression for Mars, okay, than how we're looking at the thing. Very slowly, and is spent from the year 101 all the way until 1601 was hanging out in Aquarius. I realize I need more of these. Actually, let's just go every 200 years. What happened? Something happened. Let's just print out more lines. All right, cool. the perihelion ingressed Aquarius sometimes between 1 and 101 AD, and ingressed Pisces sometime between 1601, much closer to 1701 AD. And that's where we are now, and will be through, I don't know, 3,000, maybe 4,000 something. So Mars is fastest in these signs, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and slowest in these signs, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, over the last millennium, right? Millennia. And so we look back here again and see that the most frequent retrogrades, Leo, Virgo, Libra, in other words, aphelion, because Mars is moving most slowly, so it's more easy for Earth to pass Mars in those zones of the zodiac, and most infrequently when Mars is in Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, because that's the place where Mars is closest to the sun, heliocentric perihelion, and therefore fastest, so it's more difficult for Earth to pass Mars by. So there has been a whole bunch of stuff, and we will close as we opened with a little bit of the saxophone to give you a chance, if you choose to stay, to integrate all of that stuff. Just feel it in the body a little. See ya in space.